My brothers and sisters who are in Christ, this is Minister Charles Brown from the Doctrinal Institute of Jesus Christ. I come to you today to share with you what God has shown me. The name of this lesson is A Divine Revelation. A divine revelation is something emulating from or devoted to a deity. The first evidence of this was mankind's experience of the manifestation of Lucifer in the flesh. Now, there are certain evidential truths that attest to this fact. First, the Bible declares that Satan walked up and down in earth. See Job, 1st chapter, 7 verses. To give more perspective to this, we must understand that the Bible defines the word earth as land, and our dictionary defines earth as land, land mass, or surface. To walk up and down in earth is to move or cause to go on foot over a surface at a pace slower than a run. Secondly, it would be ludicrous for us to think that Satan was a spirit and presented himself as a snake at the time he deceived Eve. If Satan, total being, were housed in an animal or human, the effect would be like the man who was possessed with many demons in the Garden of Gethsemane, and the swine that killed themselves in the sea. See Matthew 8th chapter 29th verse. Mark 5th chapter 4th and 5th verses. If this was a literal snake that we say embodied the spirit of Satan to deceive Eve, then that snake would have done like the swines did in Matthew 8th chapter 29th verses, because no animal could withstand the total embodiment of the spirit of Satan when the spirit of God is not manifesting in them. Again, the Bible declares that Satan walked up and down earth like a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour. This passage confirms that since animals cannot embody the total spirit of Satan, and man cannot consciously converse with a spirit, then Satan had to manifest in the flesh to converse with Eve. Remember, the only thing that Satan can do to man is influence him through the power of suggestion. Further, the Bible uses the phrase over a surface to define earth, which is a superficial appearance of something. In space, there is no superficial appearances. Secondly, if we conclude that it was a serpent that beguiled Eve, then that would have shown that God was unfair or biased in his approach to other species. It would have been biasness or unfairness because one species, who is the snake, would have had the ability to communicate with man in death, whereas the other species couldn't. Now, we do read in the Bible that the donkey in Numbers, 22nd chapter, 23rd to 30th verses, not only displayed particular behavior, but communicated with man. In this instance, extenuating circumstances demanded that God open the mouth of the donkey to question the behavior of his property, and then God showed the property the consequences of his behavior. Unlike the serpent, who we presume spoke with Eve and brought sin and death to man, the donkey behavior saved the life of the prophet. Thirdly, there is another act that give heed that it was not a serpent that spoke to Eve, but Lucifer. In Genesis 6 chapter, it states that the sons of God, who was deemed the fallen angels, saw the daughters of men, and they took as many of them as they chose. These sons of God bare children with their wives, and their children became mighty men of old and renown. We know that the sons of God spoken of here is fallen angels because their children were described as men of old and of renown. The term men of old and of renown means time beyond this temporal sphere, especially when used regarding God. Lastly, we know that these sons of God was fallen angels because the angels that followed God do not have wives or engage in sex to procreate. See Matthew 22nd chapter, 30th verses. Therefore, we know that it was Lucifer that Eve was talking to, because if the fallen angels could manifest in the flesh and take wives of the daughters of men, then it is very conceivable that Lucifer, who was the leader of all the fallen angels, manifested in the flesh to deceive Eve, who was the mother of all mankind. Remember, leaders dwell in high places and principalities to deceive the world, and Adam and Eve was considered the head of mankind during this time. See Genesis 2nd chapter, 21st through 24th verses, and Ephesians 6th chapter, 12th verse. I thank you for listening, and may God bless you. Stay tuned for the second part of this lesson.